Hi, everybody. This is Lori, and I'm the founder and CEO of Inclusivity. And we are all about justice, kindness, and sustainable fashion. And this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS. And today we are incredibly fortunate to have an amazing photographer, Renee Gage, with us. And she is contributing a photo to our auction to raise money for coronavirus recovery, Artists Who Share. And so Renee, thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure.
Thank you, Lori. I'm really excited to be a part of your program and everything that's going on here and helping all of these people who are going to be bouncing back from this.
Yeah. So I would like to start, Renee, actually by just learning a bit about you. Sort of, how did you start being an artist? How did you sort of know you were interested in that and get started with that?
Sure. Yes. I've always loved creating since I was little. I think a lot of people find that when they reflect on their childhood, there's things in their childhood that they love to go back to. And I always took pictures. I remember my dad taking pictures. And when I got to college, I had an opportunity to be in a darkroom for the first time. And I just fell in love and just felt like I was in a space where I could create and imagine and, you know, bring something to life that I saw through my lens. And as I graduated and created my senior portfolio and started working in the marketing world, I just felt like I was really missing something. And my husband encouraged me to jump back in it and to really focus on photography as a career, not just something that I loved to do and that I had studied. So I had loved where I was working, but I felt like I was missing something. And I think a lot of people sometimes feel like they're missing something. And for me, that outlet and that creativity and capturing people in the world around me, that's where I felt like I needed to fill that space. And so I did. I started a studio and back 19 years ago this year. And I started studying with some amazing photographers. One of my oldest mentors just passed away last year, and he was 80 when I started studying with him. And I just knew he was an icon, Jay Stock. And along with Jay, the other participants in this very small workshop really changed my life. They taught me about storytelling, and they taught me about bringing the people and the stories around you to life for other people to see and to see where they're coming from. And everything just spiraled from there. To be honest with you, I started entering professional photographer of America competitions and conventions, and everything just took off. I met amazing people who were really supportive, and I found that my work was getting deeper and more creative, and that I really was creating my own style that I felt very comfortable with. And so for me, that was really exciting to apply like what you felt, but along with that, having the support of mentors who were really teaching you also how to do it the right way and how to, you know, sort of hone your creativity to fit where you want it to be and make it your own.
So when you said you started when you were a child, which, as you said, I think is often, artists tell me that all the time, that I remember, you know, I couldn't stop drawing no matter what I did. So for you, was it other kinds of art as well, or was it really photography was always your passion?
So I love to write. I love to journal. And so I think that collecting words and journaling and then combining that, capturing like where I was on paper with my writing, and then compiling that with photography as I got older really is where I think that my foundation for myself, for how I like to create, because when I see something, I don't just see like an image. Before I knew it, before someone told me I was supposed to be a storyteller, I think I always felt that there was a story to tell with whatever the world around me presented.
Yeah.
And this was a really neat way to combine everything. And so I still journal today. I love journaling, and we move around a lot. My husband's in the Navy, and so we've gotten to see all different parts of the country. And I don't ever really want to forget where we were and what we were doing when we were in those places. So I believe a combination of writing and visual is really, that really solidifies my expression between my work and what I like to share with people.
When you were younger and you first started taking photographs, was there anything in particular that you liked to photograph?
Um, I just liked everything. I really saw the world in black and white for a long time when I was in college, especially, and really my early days with my studio. I would only photograph people black and white film. That was it. I remember clients saying, well, I really want color. And I felt like the black and white really brought out like a truer sense of expression and feeling. And so for me, I would say the black and white photography in college is really, if I had to give all digital up and go back to a dark room and a roll of film that was black and white, I would not hesitate and say sure, because I just think printing, watching that image appear on fiber paper in a dark room and just the texture of it, photography for me and this art for me is really a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel when you see an image you want to capture and the perspective you want to capture it from, who you're capturing? I don't just love photography, like I really love people.
Yeah.
Someone asked me once, I think I told you that earlier when we were speaking, that I love people and I love capturing the essence of who somebody is. And I think when you're photographing someone, if you really captured, if they've let you in, and there's a lot of trust, I think, that I want to build with the portraits that I take and the work that I do. And I think nature, in a way, when you're out there capturing a tree or, a field, I mean, there's a lot of personality in that. So what emotion are you trying to bring? So I think it's all full circle, Lori.
Can you imagine ever writing a book and have you ever done that? Have you ever printed a book that has your writing as well as images? And if not, can you imagine doing that?
Right, that is a great question. It has crossed my mind, actually. Nothing that has come to fruition yet, but maybe now that I have to say it out loud, maybe that's something I would do. I started a series of images about 6 years ago on Washington, D.C., and I'd love to make a book of that someday. Books are definitely labors of love and projects that come over time. I have a book that I created on a series of infrared images that I did in Texas, and not as much with words, but I think someday, I think it would be really amazing to create a book including words and images combined.
I mean, as a patron of photography and lover of words, I can't imagine that wouldn't be spectacular. Like I think.
Well, what's really fun is I do fine art prints, and I always love to title those images because they're real special when people choose to buy a jacqueline for their home. That's like an heirloom print. That's a storytelling piece that they're keeping in their home forever. And it's really, I really take my time when I title those for those clients because it's really special, right? They've invited you to capture their family. And then what I see, is that what they see or how they see their children? And so it becomes really special and emotional. One of my favorites is Little Dreamers. And it's a image of two children on the beach and you can see their reflection. And I recently rephotographed their family again and they have two new siblings. And so we are building on that because the mother will now have these two storytelling prints in her home, one of her two children, and then they dreamed of having more children, and that was a long road for them to be able to have two more children. And so here we've extended that story, but how special that they look at that image and it has there are words associated with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'll share some images later of some black and white infrared that we've done in the Pacific Northwest, and we've titled them. And I think when you see them, you look at that image differently when there are words associated with it. So
I think that's true. So what else, as you were growing up, I want to talk more about your photography, but just before that, what else were you interested in? What else filled your time?
My family is really special to me. people are really special to me. I just have the best memories growing up, cooking and baking with my mom. We took great family road trips, which is something we love to do with our boys now. Being at home, seeing our grandparents. My husband and I often say that it's the little moments that often mean the most. And I think when you look back or just look around you in life, and especially during this pandemic, I think a lot of things start to wash away, and what is at the core of who you are. And so when I would reflect, I remember playing imaginary games with my brother in our living room, and imagining that we were sailing away on boats, and cooking with my mom, and us taking road trips and playing outside. So that is where I think the innocence of childhood lies. And I hope I can pass that on to my kids. I want them to look back and hopefully think about being able to dream and create and think about, make up the world that you want to live in.
I like that a lot. You said that your dad took photographs too?
My dad, I just remember he took pictures of us. He had a film camera. He wasn't an avid photographer.
Okay.
But I do remember just, there's pictures of my brother and I, like when we were playing soccer. One sticks out in my mind. I have these like braided pigtails, and I think it was right before I played soccer, but it always stuck with me. And I look back at it now, and he had like used a really low depth of field. And I didn't know then, but I really loved the way that felt. I loved that the subject was very sharp in the foreground, and the background was just a little whatever you wanted it to be, in a sense. And so I think I felt like he really, I just remember being very joyful as a child. And I look at that picture, I still remember it, and think, oh my gosh, I remember feeling like that. And that picture really captures it. So my dad took pictures of my brother and I, and growing up, we had a local, our family photographer in town was always so great and interactive with all of us, and really watched us all grow up. And again, that storytelling piece falls back into line. And now when I go to my photography conventions, he's there. I mean, the gentleman who photographed my family growing up, I'm at the same convention as he is, and I'm sitting side by side with him. And I just think, oh my gosh, I didn't dream I would get to sit here with him like this. And so it's really special. So I think for me, it all goes back to how people feel, how photographs make you feel, the memory of seeing an image. I think that people could close their eyes and pick out like 10 images, right? If you were to close your eyes and think about 10 images from your life, those would really pop into your mind, I bet.
Yeah.
And I want to be the one that shares that. I want to be the one who really captures that true soul of who somebody or something is.
That's just beautiful.
Oh.
So how many children do you have?
We have 5 sons.
Okay. And how old?
They are fabulous. They are, our oldest is a freshman in high school. And so we have a 15, 13, 11, almost 9, and an 18-month-old. So we are busy.
Oh boy, you are tired. I would imagine you are tired kind of all the time.
Definitely rejuvenated, though. They definitely keep things in perspective, and they are very helpful. And one positive thing about this lockdown is that we've all been able to spend a lot of time together, and which is something that usually wouldn't have happened, especially for our baby to be able to spend time with his older brothers. So we're trying to find the silver linings and enjoy time that we would not have usually gotten. My husband recently got home from a deployment just a year ago, and I feel like this time is a gift for us to take advantage of, being able to do all the things that we missed out when we were apart. So
yeah, that's really beautiful too. And I this is a really hard time for a lot of people, but I believe, and I think you probably do too, that we can come out on the other side and be better, and we can figure out how to look back at this and create a better world for everybody. And I think we can do that.
I couldn't agree more, Lori, really. I think a lot of times whenever we go into situations, we move a lot. We've moved 13 times in, 19 years, and we kind of do that start over, but it's not really, but you kind of bring the rest of your life and your story with you, right? And we often tell the boys that it's not the situation you're always in, it's how you react to it. And I think people, there's always room to grow and explore. And if you try, even though I know it's really hard and these are very challenging times, and some people are less fortunate and have really big things to worry about. I think if you can try to find a silver lining in things and find a way to bring joy and look at a situation and embrace it to make change, positive change, I think that a lot of people hopefully might come away and realize not to get caught up in all the busyness of life, and they can kind of circle back a little bit. And then hopefully people like you are out there who are like creating change and creating help and support for people who are in those positions that want to think like this and want to be the change, but they just can't. Their situation doesn't allow it. And so hopefully, you were put where you were and you had this vision to do this, and so many people are going to be helped.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Very excited about it. So again, thank you for being part of it. So
I'm excited.
Any other creative people in your family growing up? So any other artists?
I wouldn't say really artists. My grandfather loved to design. He was a master machinist and designed all kinds of crazy things, like serious things. But in his free time, he would tinker out in his shop. And I mean, he would make like a vacuum out of an old gasoline, like a big old round tin, like the size of those old gasoline tins, like a big tin, and a cookie tin for my grandmother's kitchen. And all of a sudden he would like make a vacuum, and you would just think, how did you do that? He would need so little to create something. So I don't, I probably used to drive him a little bit crazy because he was very technical with everything, like all the lines matched up perfectly. And I'm a little more, I like to say I like to work in the gray space a lot. I'm not black or white on my things. I sort of fall in the middle. And so I do, though, I always saw him creating. And as he grew older, I mean, he was in his 80s learning email, and he passed away 18 years ago. And so he was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And so I always was inspired by the things he would come up with. I would think, would I look at a cookie tin and think to make that into a vacuum? So I was inspired by him.
Okay.
I would say most of the creativity in my family, I would say, would be in the kitchen. We have a lot of cooks in our family.
That's an art. I mean, you can make pretty creative, amazing things.
Oh my gosh, my mom, yeah. I mean, just being in there, and my husband and I cook with our boys all the time. So, but yes.
Now, any signs for any of your boys that they're interested in photography or art in other forms?
Yeah, actually, our oldest son is taking a photography class next year. So I'm really excited about that. Maybe he can teach me some new things that he's learning. Two of my other sons, they love to come with me when they can on photo shoots or edit. And anytime they ask for my camera, I always hand it right over. I feel like if I have the equipment, for them to use, I definitely want to share that, but not push them, want them to come around on their own. One of our sons is, he loves actually all of them. They love to draw and create and play with color. So it's really neat to see them do that. People often say, it's not like your equipment. It's not like the pencils you have or the pens you have or the camera you have. It's, your ability to see and to have that evolve into what you want others to see. So it's really funny. You can give them a piece of white computer paper and a pencil, and they are super happy to sit and sketch something out. So yeah, recently we've gotten into designing shoes and things like that. Cool. Boys out there painting all kinds of things. So it's great.
So do you design, or do you take photographs digitally now, or are you still using film, or do you do both?
I do. So I am digital. I have my film camera, and I actually have they call them a film. And recently a friend of mine started photographing in film again. I used to photograph my boys all the time, like once a year with film. And I can't remember after how many kids we had. I think it fell by the wayside a little bit. So I have recently been inspired to to bring out my film camera again and start shooting with it. It's really fun. In the last probably 5 years, I've really put a new emphasis on using infrared and shooting in infrared. So I have an infrared camera, and it is really amazing. It creates like a very dreamlike image. And I like that. I like that space where people can dream. I have so many artist friends that I adore that paint with wax and acrylics and pencil and, paints and the way they smudge the lines. And so I am inspired by all artists everywhere and feel very fortunate to have friends across the country that have their own galleries and studios. So I'm inspired by people with different mediums and how they present their work and how they share their work and what they're inspired by. So I really feel like being creative is not just staying focused on your craft, because I don't paint with acrylics yet, but I might. I have recently learned to paint to use encaustic. So that's been something new. A dear friend of mine has begun teaching me how to do that, and I'm doing that with some of my photographs. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so it's really neat. So I think expanding your horizons in any way and looking to others for inspiration or creativity. And I have found across the board that people are so willing to connect to you. Our friends that connected us. Amazing artists. My friend who taught me encaustic, my friend who is a watercolor teacher.
I'm going to interrupt you because she taught you what?
Oh, a friend of mine paints with encaustic.
I don't know what that is.
Encaustic painting, and you paint with wax.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was the name of that.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful technique. And so she helped me with a piece I did on our youngest son, which is something I'm starting to, I just want to finish polishing my technique so that it's something that I can share with my clients, my friends, my family. It's really a beautiful way to work with paints. And
so describe it to me a little bit. So you're painting on your photograph?
Yes. So I took my photograph, and it had to be on a all cotton paper.
Okay.
And then I made my own glue. Have you ever made glue? Talk about things that you never do, and then you're like, okay.
What'd you make out of?
Rice.
Oh, okay.
It was a project. My mom and I laughed so hard. So we had to make all natural glue, so there were no chemicals or plastics in the glue. And I went and got my block and painted it on, adhered it to my block, and then Carrie helped me to, go through her process of painting. So she has a beautiful studio up in Hillsborough, Washington, and taught me this technique. So anyways, it was beautiful. I did it in black and white. It looks like a sketch, and it's got this wax medium over it.
That sounds fascinating.
It's beautiful. I love it. I'm so excited to be able to do more of them. And it's on the back of his head. And so you just see all those little lines in his hair and his little ears and the way he has the little neck is sitting in his, there's a story, right? The back of somebody's head. That's a story. Because I see that as he toddles down, the hallway, just the way he tilts his head. And so that goes back to that story too. And so it's really fun. I love collaborating with people on anything. And when you reached out, I was so excited because I just felt like how great for Kai and Thea to connect us, and I was connected with them by other dear friends of both of ours that they had been on a photography and writing trip together. And I just think that openness of people connecting and wanting to create and can help, and that's where it is. That's where people are making change and being open and sharing what they have. So
yeah, that's sort of everything. So I think that we'll have you, if you want, show some of your photographs and talk to us about them. And then after that, I'm going to warn you about these things so you can kind of be pondering them in your head while we talk about your photographs. I'm going to ask for sort of your life philosophy. So if you had to, pin it down, what it would be. and any advice you'd give to artists that are coming up, so photographers that are sort of younger and coming up. And then finally, I'm just going to ask you to tell me a story from your life. And I always like to make sure I say that it doesn't have to be the story. You know, we're not looking for the core story of your life, although you can tell us that. But really, it's just a story that when you think of it, it feels like yours, if that makes sense. It just feels like it's yours, something you own. So, but to start, how about if you show us some of your photos and then we'll come back and finish off with those other things.
Okay, let's see here. Well, why don't I start with a couple infrared images since we talked about that first. Let's see here. This one, okay, let's see if I can. Okay. No, hold on. Okay, this image is called Dreaming Tree.
That is stunning.
Thank you. This is one of my favorite images. And actually, this image is so perfect to share because my friend's farm in Texas that this tree was taken on, they are the ones who introduced me to the people who introduced you to me. So this is a very full circle. Isn't that funny? I didn't even think of that. I just pulled it up. This tree, trees in general speak to me. I photograph a lot of trees, and I think a lot of people have connections with trees in particular, the way they grow, how they grow. Yeah. I'm not always drawn to big luscious trees. I have some that we found out in West Texas that I looked at and I just kept thinking, how is that tree surviving out here?
Yeah.
So actually, maybe I'll show you 3 trees. How about that? I'll show you.
That would be wonderful because I feel the same way. Trees are my holy place.
Yes, mine too. The roots are deep and you just never know where the branches are going to go. So this tree is very special to me. I love the way the infrared here. So the infrared captures the heat that's collected, in a subject. And so it gives you this, this ethereal feeling.
Yeah.
I just think it's really dreamy. I love that I don't know where this path goes on the left. Maybe that's for me to take. Maybe I'm waiting for somebody. Maybe, I don't know, as a child, you could imagine a tree with like this with a swing underneath it, spending, summer nights under the stars with this beautiful tree.
So, Renee, you said you have an infrared camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not the film or you don't do anything after to make it this way.
Well, I process this digitally. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I interrupted. I process this digitally. I also have an infrared film camera, and there's a funny story of me visiting my husband when he was on deployment in Italy and Prague, and going through all these airports with this infrared film that cannot be exposed to any light. I don't even know how you would actually travel with infrared film nowadays because it was a little tricky, 17 years ago doing that. But I have an entire collection and I had to put it, and I was like, no, infrarosso, and trying to get them not to open it because it would all be exposed. So I have, I did an exhibit years ago of infrared on infrared film. So I have been shooting infrared for probably 17 years now. So in the last 6 years, it came back in a digital format for me, which was really, really beautiful that I was able to do that because film is tricky to find sometimes. This image might be a little harder to see, but I want you to, can you see? Okay.
So right now, all I can see is the top of the tree that you just showed us.
Oh, okay, new share. Let's try that. How about now?
Now I can see it. Oh my goodness.
This tree is in the Olympic National Park. This tree is called the Tree of Life. And if you look closely, you can see all of its roots are exposed. And there's a trickle of water behind here. And I don't know that this image needs words because it's so powerful that when we have so little, we can still have so much. You think this tree has so little, but it doesn't. It has more than enough to flourish.
This tree, when you said it doesn't need words, I thought, well, no, it doesn't need words because this tree feels like creation to me.
Yes.
That is the
Oh my
first
gosh.
thing that popped into my head.
And then here's another tree. Before I love trees. Okay,
Oh,
whoops. Sorry.
that's okay.
Okay, this tree, um,
Beautiful.
this tree I titled, back to titles, is titled Unlikely Embrace. And this is a beautiful little capture right off the road on Vashon Island. And there's old stories about how this bike, but this bike is literally 6 feet in the air. This tree grew around it. So if
Wow.
you could imagine walking through the forest, down a trail or wherever you are, and looking above you, and this tree literally grew around this bicycle.
Wow.
That's
very cool.
so special. Okay.
I have a strong belief that the earth can kind of take over and correct things if we just let it. And I feel like that is an example of the earth sort of taking charge and holding on to something that we would think would be destroying it. And instead,
I agree with you, Lori. I couldn't agree more. Let's hold on.
so those were the infrared pieces. This
Yep.
is another, is this one infrared as well?
Let me show you this one more. Let's see if I can get it. And then here we go.
I love it.
Yeah, this one's called Nature's Love. And that one really makes me smile just thinking about how that hurt just ended up right there.
Yep.
All right, let's see. And then my last tree I will share is the tree I spoke about. Let's see. This tree is out in West Texas. This tree is out in West Texas, and I am just as drawn to it as I am the full, luscious trees, because here we are in the desert on the border of the United States and Mexico, and this tree is growing still. So that is some of my tree infrared work that I just...
Those are spectacular.
Oh, thank you. I really, really love them. So we also spoke about I started a Washington collection when we lived here last time, and that encompasses images all relating back to George Washington. We spent a lot of time really learning about our first president. We live just 5 miles, not even 3 miles, I guess, from Mount Vernon, and so became really intrigued by this great man, the father, one of founding fathers, and we wanted. I like when we move to capture where we are. Mm-hmm. I feel like my storytelling opportunity and job is for people to see all of the places we've lived. Mm-hmm. So I create a portfolio wherever we live. We've gotten to live in Washington, D.C. area, Northern Virginia, Texas, Washington State, Maine. So I have images from all of those places.
So can you tell me a little bit about your technique, like what kind of paper you use and those kinds of things? Because I think your paper looks really interesting.
Yes. Did the second one came up?
No, I just saw the first one.
Okay, let's see here. Here's the second one. So these images are printed on a fine art watercolor paper. They're all giclées and printed with archival inks. They're all hand-torn images. And if you look closely along the border here, I hand drew a border that was inspired when I was at the National Gallery of Art by an image, a mother and child image by Lorenzo Monaco. And I wanted to bring that painterly feeling to these images with that classic painting, with the style, the crackling, all of it. So this was one of those ways where I think that people need to constantly look around them. I mean, you could be inspired by artwork at a museum. You could be inspired by artwork um, you know, I'm not sharing anything. I just think you could be inspired by sharing any kind of artwork. So whether it be museums, children, music. I have a friend, she painted a painting in our house, and she painted what she heard. She listened to a song, and her whole painting is what she heard.
I love it.
This is Mount Vernon. This is one of my favorites. This is just right down the street from our house. So I love that. I love that George Washington always said he was a farmer first, and he kept that very close to his heart.
Renee, when you said you painted, is it the little images along the edge? Is that painting, or is that?
Yeah, so I hand drew what was around the edges, and then scanned it and made an overlay. Wow. And so it just was. I think we all have a variety of styles of everything we do. I think the core is what we talked about earlier. What is like the soul, the heart of what you're doing? What are you trying to bring out? And it's fun to experiment and try new things. And you might try something you don't like, but like you said about asking people earlier to be a part of something, I mean, the worst thing is you try something new and it doesn't work for you, and then you can just try something else. But maybe along the way you'll learn a lesson or meet somebody new, or it all comes back to a community of people, people who inspire you, people who are looking to be inspired, seeing things in a different light, but all doing it. I think you started out with kindness and joy and goodness.
Well, and I'm just going to backtrack a little because the conversation we had about asking was before I turned the recording on. So I just want to backtrack and let people know that we were just talking about if you never ask someone for help, or you never reach out to someone that you want to know, then you will never know them. And so we really were talking about how important it is to take that risk and step out. Renee, this picture looks like it's moving to me. I love this.
Thank you.
It is so, I'm captivated by it.
Thank you. This is called Whispering Blossoms. This is one of my favorite cherry blossom prints. I photograph the cherry blossoms every spring in the city when they're in bloom, multiple times. I usually go down at least 3 or 4 times as they're beginning to bloom, but I feel the movement. This reminds me of even though it's a cherry tree, of a willow tree that I grew up going to when I was little. So, so that's some of my.
Those are fantastic.
Thank you. But so that's some of my landscape work. I really love photographing newborns and children and babies and families. I think there's so many stories to be told. That I have you were asking me earlier about portraits and people, and really I think of myself as someone who, all the landscape and all those things are personal projects that I've done. Nobody asked me to do those. That is me telling a story on where my family is and where I'm at, and to see where my life, like, is my husband deployed here? Did we have a baby, or did we move, or all those things. I look at those images and I think of road trips and all of us being in a car and my husband pulling over so I can jump out in the middle of the road in West Texas and like lay in the middle of the road to take a picture, or walk down a fence line to find like the perfect angle for the tree and the fence and the little house, or, so those for me are very personal projects. And I love to share them because I like for people to see. People sometimes say, oh, I didn't know you took pictures of trees or flowers. And I think it's all it's the same, like we talked about, having that soul. But this is an image, one of my favorite images, of a newborn and his mom.
Wow.
And this is where I love to capture those tender little moments, and whether these children are infants or older, just having someone be able to look look and see what's going on, how parents see their children, hopefully how children, here's a family, I love this family.
Oh, very sweet.
Her first birthday. Let's see. And, this little girl, did that come up?
Nope.
Oops. Okay, here we go.
So how many photographs do you take a day? How many do you take a week? How much time are you spending photographing?
Well, that really depends on, I'm so sorry. Let me go back.
Oh my goodness.
All right, how about I just come back to you right here? Okay. I photograph daily. It is just a part of who I am. I mean, sometimes with 5 kids, I don't always bring my big camera with me all the time. I'm visual, so I think storytelling in that way is really fun and important. I probably do maybe 2 sessions a week on average throughout the year. I mean, I think they ebb and flow depending on what time of year it is. I like to find a balance. I think that a balance between your work and your personal life is really important, although mine is definitely very integrated.
Right.
I think I don't like to turn things down, because I feel like the people who reach out to me to photograph their family know that I'm going to tell a story. So I don't think I'm the person that people call just to say, oh, I just need a quick picture of this. I think people, most of the time, I photographed some of the same families now for 19 years. Recently, a little girl I photographed when her mom was pregnant with her, one of my two, actually a little girl and a little boy, both their moms, and we lived in Maine right when I first started. And both of those children are graduating from high school this year. And so I've literally over the years photographed them and watched them grow up, and dear family friends of ours. So capturing stories, and being with my husband in the Navy, we've moved all over and we continue to overlap. I mean, our paths are, everything is woven together. So we get to see these, meet friends of friends and people, and going into people's homes and seeing images that I've captured of people's families over the years is the most dear thing to me. Like, that someone would trust me to capture their family, their children. I look back at my kids when they were newborns, and that is a very, very delicate and special time in somebody's life. And I am always, always so honored when someone asks me to be the one to do that, because you have one chance to do that, And as these children get older, trusting me to capture those same sincere smiles from a 5-year-old when those kids are in high school. Like, can I do that? Can I get that same smile? And I know that I can. I know them. I've known those kids since they were tiny. So I know what their real smile looks like. And, I want their parents to look at them and say, that's my little girl, or that's my little guy I remember.
I love it. Really beautiful. And what a gift to anyone that you work with, that's how you think about your photography. Is such a gift.
Thank you. It's really special. I really love people. I love capturing people's essence and who they are. It's definitely really special to me. I don't think I would do it. I did have a little kid once during a family shoot say, excuse me, Miss Renee, do you have to, this is your job, you have to do this? I go, this is my job. I love my job. And he goes, ugh, this would be the worst job in the world. Like, I mean, he just thought, like, the thought of like having to go photograph somebody's family would be so awful. And I think it's so much fun. I love it.
Well, then he should not do that job. There's not a job for him. So, Renee, if you could share just if you were talking to someone who's starting photography now and really is feeling that passion and excitement about it, what piece of advice would you share? What would you say? Do this or
Yeah. Do it all. Try everything. Reach out. Put yourself out there. Don't hesitate. If you feel like you're being pulled in a direction, just go for it and try it. If no one's done it before, that's fine. You be the first one to do it. Ask for help. Reach out. There are plenty of people in all communities that we've moved around and lived in that are so willing to support you, to answer questions, whether that be, to give you encouragement just to get out there, whether it be technical. I think at the heart of all of it, people are just really, people are good. There's a lot of goodness in the world, and sadly it doesn't always get all of the credit that it deserves or should get to encourage people. But my biggest advice would just to say, follow your heart. I think people should not hesitate. I think it's good to be nervous. I always get a little nervous before all of my shoots. And I've been doing this for 19 years. And sometimes I told my husband, I kind of love it. It keeps the edge on a little bit. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you excited. I mean, I don't want things to be mundane. I did have someone when I first started, I had asked a similar question. Do you have any advice to someone who's married to someone in the military, just starting out and moving their business all around? And they said to get out, don't do it. That was their advice. And part of me is really glad. I know. Part of me is really glad I can't remember who that person is. And there's days I would love to find that person and tell them, like, I didn't actually listen to you at all. And I have met people all over the world because of my photography, and the people I photograph become very good friends of mine. And I get to go see them. I go back to all the places we've lived, and I travel back every couple of years to photograph families in the places we've lived. I've built a beautiful network of storytelling across the country, and even when my husband was deployed internationally. So my advice, hands down, is to follow your heart. If you're a little nervous, that's great. Use that energy and propel forward, and never hesitate on learning new things, and never hesitate on wanting to share something that you have learned. Like I said, I'm excited for my son to take.
It's okay.
Like I said before, I'm really excited for my son to take photography because I think that he will teach me things that I didn't know about.
It's likely there are new things that he'll learn.
And new ways to see things. I like to tell photographers also, when I teach workshops, I have everyone like lay on the ground. Like right now, Lori, if you were to lay on the ground and look up at your ceiling, you probably haven't done that maybe ever before. And if you were to like sit under your desk, or I like to do fun activities like that during workshops, like put one object, like place a pear in the middle of the table, and you have to take, a roll of film, you step, 36, everyone take 36. And I used to call it the 37th frame. If you loaded your film just right, you could get 37 pictures. And so I would always be curious on every roll of film, what was my last shot? I kind of thought it would be in there, but like, would that roll give that to me or not? And if it did, what was I going to use that like magical last frame on? What was that 37 photo? And so I think people, should do that. I think you should look at an object and you move around it, you check it out. And so definitely go for it. Don't hesitate.
Now that sounds like it's also sort of your life philosophy, but do you have anything else to add, sort of your sort of core philosophy for yourself?
Yeah, I would say my core philosophy is definitely to embrace the little moments in life. They hands down always mean the most. I think that we need to keep focused on the little, I'm going to cry. I just think that people overlook the tiny parts of your day that have the biggest impact, whether that's like that extra quiet moment you have, or the hug that your child or somebody else wants to give you and that you just give them that extra time for, saying hello to your neighbor and taking the time to respond, not just, quickly rush off. I think our lives are made of really big, exciting things that happen. And I've been really blessed and very fortunate. My husband and I both feel like we've lived so far wonderful lives with great opportunities that I think we've taken advantage of and explored and grown from. But I wouldn't hesitate to take all of that and just put it on pause, just to be like sitting on my couch or in bed with all my kids like piled up on top of me. Like, so I would say embrace the little moments. They mean the most, and embrace your family and all the people around you. Find goodness in all things.
Yep. I like that.
Shine bright. I always tell my kids every day before they go to school, shine bright, just be you.
Yeah. And I love that reminder to notice the small things, because every day some great small things happen. Yes. And if you force yourself to think about them and remember them, it makes everything so much better.
Definitely. I agree. Definitely, Lori.
So if you were going to tell us a story from your life, what story would you tell us?
I don't know. There's so many. I know you told me to prepare for this too, and it's still
it's a hard one.
It's still really hard. I think the story that I would share. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Can I tell you 2 quick stories?
Yes.
I just can't. When I was in college, I felt like I learned a really great lesson in thinking you want it one thing and working really hard towards it. Mm-hmm. And I had really wanted to be president of my student government. Mm-hmm. And I did not win the election. And I was heartbroken. I had been very involved all through college in our college campus that way. And I guess it just seemed like the next natural step. And I really did want it. And because I didn't win that election, I really took some time, I guess, to like reflect. Mm-hmm. And I got back to school in the fall, and I started tutoring kids at a low-income housing project. Mm-hmm. And then I invited my friends to come with me, and then they invited their friends. And so it really snowballed into something amazing and strong. And these kids benefit. I still keep in touch with the little girl that I tutored. And I think if people look at things that happen and you see that there's something else you're meant to do, because of that volunteer program that was started because I just had time to go tutor and help these kids, I was introduced to some dear friends who have an organization called Heart of America, and introduced me to so many people who work in nonprofit who give back in so many different ways to their hearts. And I didn't know at what great extent that people give. And people give of their time and their talents and financially, and no matter what it is, people have such big hearts. So because I thought I wanted something that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, my life would be so incredibly different had that moment been that way. And I'm so grateful that it happened the way it did. I think there's a bigger picture we don't see. And so all the volunteer projects that I have, lots of volunteer projects that I've done in my life spurred from that one moment that I didn't think was going to happen. So I think seeing a big picture, that is that one story. And recently, my husband had been deployed for 7 months when we lived in Washington State, and he was gone a lot. And our 5th son was born 2 weeks after he deployed. And he had been home for all of our other boys being born. And it was okay. We went into this, like, we knew that was just the way it was going to fall. And we prayed for a healthy, happy baby. And we have a healthy, happy baby. And somewhere along the way, like, I broke my foot and he was on the other side of the world. And I have 5 kids and my parents were there and my mom came back. And so I share this story because crazy things kept happening. Things that you would be like, really? And we just kept laughing. We like, oh, what are you going to do? And we would just keep rolling along. And it was all okay. it all worked out. I mean, we kind of joke like, it's fine, it'll be fine. But I think when you're going through life, the biggest lesson that we really took away from that and our whole family embraced was strength and grace. And I believe because of all like the crazy, funny, bizarre stuff you can't make up, things that happened during that time, like massive power outages and snowstorms and company coming to visit with no electricity and, you know, just flying across the country to welcome my husband home. You know what matters? That we're all fine. Like we are healthy and that we are strong and we're better together. And that if we just laugh about some things and look for the bright side of them, I really think that it makes you stronger. So I just think to give people grace, to find strength where you need to. It was a really, really bizarre time in our lives. And we look back and think, oh my gosh, I can't even believe all that happened. But it did. And now we're all together and it's great. And we have so many stories and funny memories. So I think both of those things really made big impacts on my life and things that I hope to share with my children, that my husband and I really embrace those ways of showing our children how to live and how we want to continue to live our life together. So yeah, we live in great communities. We've met amazing people, and I think that's what it's all about. I think that's why I love it. I get to do so much, and I love that we were connected like this.
I love that too.
It's so great.
So thank you so much. This has been just an honor, and your work is gorgeous, and I'm so excited to have you be part of the auction, and look forward to finding other ways we'll work together in the future, because I think you're just a stunning human.
Oh,
so thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the same about you. I think there's no coincidences, and I am just eternally grateful to be connected to you and your dream of doing this. Did you imagine this to come to fruition like this, Lori? I have to ask.
I mean, I knew we've worked with great artists since I opened the company a few years ago. So I knew I'd have some great artists who would step forward, but then it just started snowballing where I would, contact someone and they'd connect me with someone else, or a lot of people that I've reached out to have said yes, that, I didn't know if they would. And so I think what's stunning to me is what always happens if you're willing to sort of reach out. You just meet the best people. Like there are just some amazing people. And every time I meet a new artist, I'm sort of like, oh, wow, this is what a gift for me that I get to have this. And so the snowball effect has been remarkable. And then I haven't announced this at all, but this won't be out until after Monday, so I can say it. Getting Sharon Stone to donate her first paint by number just even adds this extra layer to the event. And so I'm extraordinarily excited about it.
I think so crazy.
It's going to be so much fun. And so once we get it out Monday, I think that because we have 25 artists around the country, and then on top of no, we have 29 as of today around the country. And then on top of that, we have artists from the Netherlands and possibly artists from Colombia. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, and that's what
it's going to be amazing.
Talking about. Like, how do these ideas come to be where they are? And it's because someone has an idea and other people want to support you.
Yeah.
And because you just have such a good essence about you. You're so sincere and so joyful about what you're doing. And it just feels, I'm really happy for you. I know how important it is when something you dream about comes and other people believe in what you're doing. I mean,
makes a big difference.
Yeah, you don't do it for that reason. But when other people are like feeling what you're feeling, I mean, you can't help but be energized by that.
Well, and so the art is, I don't think I've even shared this with you, but we have an artist that I actually spoke with her grandmother and her today, and she contributed a panel because her grandmother is someone that her name's Mary, and she's just lovely. And I was speaking to her grandmother on a podcast earlier, and the granddaughter made a panel. So we have a panel from an 8-year-old all the way up to a 90-year-old.
Do you love that?
I love it. I love it. And we have people with different abilities and from different cultures and from different perspectives. And we have charcoal and photographs and needlepoint and quilting and acrylic paint and watercolor paint and dyed fabric or painted fabric. So we have this incredible chance to have an auction that really does have something for everybody.
That's amazing.
That's just amazing.
It's so exciting though. I just keep thinking of all the artists that I feel like artists are so willing to want to share when it's for a good cause, because I think, like we were talking, every artist has a story of like how they ended up where they were. I mean, my friend Evelyn up in Maine, she didn't even start painting until I think she was in her like maybe early 60s. I mean, she just found this whole other career, and she has raised, I mean, I don't even know how much money she's raised for a land trust in Maine. But she didn't even start, I mean, she didn't even start painting until she was like late 50s, early 60s, I think. So I think of all the people. And my friend Carrie, she was in accounting before. I mean, I just think it's amazing what people can do, but they need the space, the right venue, the space to do, and the support.
Yeah. Well, and Renee, what excites me about this auction too is that we do have it set up so that the artists will, as a group, split 25% of the money we bring in. And the reason we're doing that is that we understand that artists are often hit really hard during economic downturns. And so not only are we supporting the United Way and all the important work they're doing, but we're also able to give back to the artists who do often give their work away and are expected to give their work away to raise funds. And so I feel good about that as well, that we are able to, you know, offer some support to some artists.
Did I ever tell you that I worked for the United Way in Florida?
I think in our first conversation.
I know, I think that's so fun how that literally does come full circle. And then I did fundraising brochures for the United Way in Maine. I did all the photographs for them when we lived up there. So I love how things come full circle.
Well, and I'm glad that I think that's terrific. This is an organization you obviously care about because you were involved with them.
Oh my goodness.
So Renee, thank you so much. I cannot wait until we see what, do you have an idea of what direction you're going to go with the panel photo?
I was leaning towards doing a new cherry blossom print that I just took this year, and I do release note cards every spring, and it's an image. I was going to do 4 images. I had 4 images picked out, and I only ended up using 2 to do my box sets. And so I was thinking there were 2 images that I didn't use that I loved. And I thought maybe I would print one of those when you said it should be something original. I toyed with something infrared, but I really, when you said you loved that one cherry blossom print when it came up as well, I thought it might be fun to do something brand new that I took right when this pandemic was all starting, because I went down to the tidal basin. I guess it was the Friday, I think it was the Friday before they put a lockdown on Virginia.
Wow.
And so like literally when we talk about the image, that if I use that cherry blossom image, we can just say this image was taken, like this is supporting the pandemic, and this image was taken when all of this was happening. I think for this year, it would be really powerful to say, like, as this is happening and making such like a unexplainable impact on so many people, like here is like something blooming and blossoming, and there's growth and there's joy and beauty here. And hopefully people after this event will see that there is hope. There's always hope.
I love that. The cherry blossoms are beautiful, and I think it will be stunning.
Oh, well, you are really amazing. I am grateful the world has people like you in it who have a vision and want to help so many people. So I'm really grateful to be included in this amazing group.
We'd love to have you. I look forward to getting to know you better as time goes on.
Me too.
I thank you so much for your participation. And to everybody else, this is Inclusivi-TALKS and our wonderful guest, Renee Gage, who is a phenomenal photographer. And thank you, Renee. and we'll
Thank you,
look for your
Lori.
work at the auction.
I know. Best wishes, you guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.